Hello, guys. Good evening. Welcome to today's class. If you can hear me, kindly go ahead and drop a message in the comment section. Hi, Bob. Good evening. Welcome to today's class. Hello, Bobby.
Hi,
Can
Amaka.
you
Good
hear
evening.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good
All
evening,
right.
Amaka.
Good evening. Welcome to today's class. Thank you so much for showing up. I think we're good to go. So let me just hand over the class to you. I'll be in the background.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I believe you've been having a swell time so far in your classes. From your previous class, I know you talked about CRUD operations, and this is a follow up on that class. I will be sharing my screen in a few moments, so give me a moment. Uh, I hope you guys can see my screen. Hello, Maka, can you see my screen?
Yes, Bobby, I can see your screen.
All right. So, as a follow up on the sessions that we've had so far, uh, we would be looking at pagination today. You talked about CRUD operations, which is basically you being able to create, you being able to read files, you being able to update and delete from your database. Now we would want a situation where we are able to, pull out a certain amount of data from the database and place them into groups so that we do not overwhelm, the viewer by pasting everything we pull out from our database at once. Uh, Amaka, can you still see my screen? It seems to be totally stuck. Give me a moment. I think I have to
So,
do
hi,
this again.
Bob. If you can hear me, yes, I can see your screen. But you're currently sharing the StreamYard screen.
Oh, all right. Let me do that again. Give me a moment.
All right.
All right, confirm you can see my screen now.
Yeah, I can see your screen, but can you zoom in a bit? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I was saying what was discussed last time was CRUD operations, which is a way of creating, reading, updating, and deleting, values from your database. It's a standard that we use when it comes to a lot of applications that we use out there online. It's a standard for you to be able to work with data that is being stored in your database. Then CRUD operation is usually a must. And today we are going to be looking at another aspect of it. This is basically you using your knowledge of CRUD operations in combination with what is known as you know paginations. So pagination is a way of querying your database and retrieving information in batches, in sections, such that would be, easier to be made use of, in your front end or wherever it's being consumed. Your API is able to query the database to bring out the information in specific batches, in pages. So say you went to your favorite movie site, for instance. You wanted to request for, let's say, the movie site has up to 100 movies on it, and you want to be able to go through this. Pagination gives you the ability to, section those things in probably groups of 10s or 20, so that it's easier for you to, view these things and not get overwhelmed and consume them, in bits. We would be looking at a very, very simple code that helps us do that using Express, Mongoose, and your Mongo DB database. And I believe we already understand how to set up most of all these things, set up our Mongoose, set up our Express, set up our MongoDB itself. Just as a way of starting, I would want to ensure that my database is actively running. So let me confirm that. Okay, so let's see system. So for those of us who are using the Linux environment, I believe that we would understand what I am doing right now. I am basically trying to start the MongoDB service on my system so that I can easily connect to my database. It's requesting I place in my password. All right, and that should be done. Let's see. All right, so my MongoDB is fully started, and so right here I'm going to walk us through the code that is here, which is a basic API for a product. We are going to be working with the demo data. Please do well to speak if you're hearing me, and if you're seeing my screen. Well, I would love to confirm that you're seeing the screen is bold enough for you. Drop a message in the chat so that I could know that you're following up. So what we have here is a basic Express application. I will just run through each of the folders one after the other. The first folder here, we have the models folder, which is where we have our product schema. Remember, we are working on a product API, and let's think about a use case scenario here. The use case in this situation will basically be, let's say you have a product, an e-commerce site, for instance, and you want to be able to list your products. You understand? You probably have like an aspect or an endpoint on your API that handles the products. This is basically mimicking that in this situation. It's going to mimic the product endpoint where we'll be able to communicate with our database, update, products, retrieve products to be displayed on our front end, or delete products. This is the endpoint that's going to handle that. And we've understood that Mongoose as an ODM helps us, structure out our data. And that's what we are trying to do here in this place. The model is basically containing a products.js file, which contains our product schema. Now, in this situation, what is expected of us is in our product, we obviously need to have a product name obviously describing the product. We need to have a product category. So whether you are handling, electronics, it's beverage on your platform, or you are selling cars, whatsoever, it falls under a specific category, and we've given it a specific type. Then we'd always have to, place in the price for whatsoever product it is. Afterwards, we would need to describe whether that product is in stock or not. So this is just a demo of what the product is supposed to be like. Obviously, in real life, the schema for our product is going to have more information than this. It could have products, brands, Sometimes some specific products come from specific vendors, and you might want to tag it on whatever products that is, so that you know the kind of products that you are dealing with. It could also mean that if it's a site like Jumia, that product is supposed to be, attributed to a specific store. So you probably want to, also impute some of that information to ensure that it properly describes or properly, portrays whatsoever thing that your business case or your use case needs. So that's our basic schema, and it's inside of the model folder. Obviously, you know what the node modules folder does, and then the next thing here we have is the routes. Now, in our situation here, I chose to put the routes and the controllers together. I didn't separate them, just because this is for demonstration only. Um, in our routes, obviously, we are going to set up the various routes that we are going to be using. Um, so here we are going to also talk about the kind of requests that we are using within our route. So in this situation, we are going to be working with just two major requests. We are not doing too much of a CRUD operation here. Basically, we are only going to be posting, the products, just to be sure that we have uploaded some files into the or some documents into the database, and then the next thing is going to be our get request, which is where we are going to be able to place our pagination request to the backend. Let's see if we could run through each of the lines of code one after the other. Obviously, you are importing Express, which is the framework that we are using in this situation. Express has to be in your application for it to, be in synergy with every other aspect of the document. Then the next thing is, since this is a router file, we have to import the Express router specifically to tell Express that this document is going to be performing some router actions. Yeah. Now, because we are using Mongoose and we are going to be using a specific, product schema, we are importing our model here, our product schema here, and that is what is being held within the product constant. Uh, so moving forward from there, now uh, the first kind of request that we are going to be handling is the post request. Now, the push request, basically, obviously, it's going to, have its request and response. Then we are trying it to for any errors, and then we are moving forward from that. Now, we are going to create a product, since we are trying to create the post request. Basically, is going to handle creation requests. So let's say the admins at the from the website or from the front end want to add up a new product into the database. Obviously, they are going to use the push request. This must have been discussed in details in your last class, and yes, this is the router that is going to handle the push request. So basically, we are creating a new product, collecting the request body, and ensuring that it saves while we await it. And once that is done, a status report is sent back that it has successfully saved the product. The next thing that we see is the catch. Just in case there's an error, it's going to obviously return a status of 404, telling us that there was something wrong at our end. Now, this is just in case that we do not follow the proper schema, and we placed in wrong data, or we placed it in the wrong way. It's going to tell us that this request is from your end. It's not correct. So you would have to check it again, and ensure that you are following the proper uh, data model or the schema that we are supposed to use on our database. Now, for the parts that we are supposed to talk about, that is of the major interest to us this evening, is the pagination, and we are going to be getting that using handling that via a get request. Remember, all this just does for you is it goes into the database, it sorts out all the data that you have ordered it to bring out, and then it just places it in somewhat an organized batch structure, bringing it out in pages one after the other, so that it does not overwhelm, the front end or people who are viewing it at the front end. So yeah, paginating it is just basically a way of sectioning your data such that it does not overwhelm anyone on the front end. So let's see if we could understand what is happening here with the code. First of all, this is obviously very I try to ensure that it was commented properly so that it's easy for us to just understand what each line of code is doing. So first of all, we are defining a route to retrieve the products, and this route handles the get request to the root. So basically, whatever endpoints that we have defined as the root, when we try to request for the paginated data, it's this via a GET request. This is a route that is going to be able to handle it, right? Then the async keyword is used to enable the use of the await keyword. So basically, we are using the async keyword at the beginning of it so that we let it understand that this is going to be an asynchronous operation so that when we make the request, we can use the await and ensure that it gets back the feedback that is needed. Now that's just defining this line of code here. Now let's see what the other ones do. So we first of all start by destructuring the query parameters from the request. Now remember when your request comes from whatsoever endpoints that it's coming from, it comes as an object. Now in order for you to be able to assign those and an object comes with key pairs and all of that. So for us to be able to assign the values that came via the request query to specific values, we can use destructuring, and destructuring is just basically using your regular constant value and pasting it within curly brackets, and then you now begin to assign the keywords or the variable names that you will use for all those various values that are going to come within your query body. You understand? So in this case, we are going to be expecting a page, a limit, sort by, order by, and we are going to also be expecting a filter. Now you must have been noticing there's an equal sign, there's an equal sign here, page equals 1, limit equals 10, sort by equals name, and order equals uh, ascending order. So the ASC means ascending order in this place, in this situation. And then there's this the triple dots and the filter. This triple dot it means that there could be a variable length of data that is sent via the filter. It could be a string of words, more than one. So for you to be able to handle whatever length that comes in via the filter, you use the three dots before the keyword, which is filter, or the variable name, which is filter. And the reason why we have this value being assigned to a specific number is this. So just in case there is a search or a query from the front end and there was no specific value given to the page, the limit, or the sort by, these are all going to appear as default. So it's going to say that if you did not select a page by default when sending the request or when sending your get request from your front end, it's going to by default bring the first page of the paginated data. And then it is always, if you do not give it a limit from the front end, then it is by default going to limit the number of outputs that comes out to 10. So only just 10 values. So if you had 100 values in your database and you made a request and you didn't specify how many values you wanted to come out, let's say your search function does not require you to set a limit to the amount of value that you want to display per time. uh, the code has already assigned a default value to be able to manage that. Following after that is the sort by. So in most search functions, we know how it comes. You might choose to search by the name of the product, let's say laptops, or you might use to search by the vendor, or you might choose to search by the type of products. In our case here, let's go and look into our model. So we have name here, we have categories, we have price, we have in stock. So you might choose to sort by any of these values here. But what we have done inside of what is supposed to be like our controller is basically we have set the default value to name. So just in case nothing has been set as a sorting type from our front end, we have a default value to work with, and then the business end, which is your API here, knows what to do. And then the next thing that we have is the order by. In this case, we are ordering it in the ascending format. So ascending means it's going to be coming from the top to the bottom, while descending means it's going to be coming from the bottom to the top. So we basically set our default values here, and then the filter wasn't set with a default value, but however it has been set to handle any number of values that is going to come in. So basically your filter could be price ranges or something like that. It could be price ranges. It could be a number of types that is more than one. So basically, the filter is just there to be sure that you're able to set out like a specific narrowed out value set. So moving forward, that is basically what all this does. So these parameters are here to just give you basic defaults. Following after that is your sort order. So the sorting order is this is just basically uh, if a line of code that determines how the order of the sorting is going to occur. So if it is in if it's in ascending order, it should start from one down. If not, so this is a ternary operator, and I'm pretty sure that when we were talking about JavaScript, we understood what a ternary operator is. It's basically an if statement, an if else statement rather, that is being structured into a single line of code. So it's basically saying that if the order we selected is in ascending order, then it should start from the first value and go down, count downwards. So it's going to count from one, two, three downwards. But if it is not, basically that means if this is not true, if ASC is true, it starts from one. But if it is not, it starts from minus one. So it's basically going to start from the bottom up. So we are basically assigning the one this value to the sort order, and we will see where it is being used later on in the code. So let's go down. As usual, we always place our logic within a try so that if there's any error, we are able to catch that error. So let's go ahead and see what the next set of codes do. Now, I hope I'm not talking too fast. If you're following, I want to see your response in the chat. Am I going too fast? Are you seeing what I'm doing clearly? And also, if you have any questions so far, I would also want to know. I'm seeing a couple of people on the call. I'm seeing Fatayo, Olua Shegun. I'm seeing Toby. Uh, all right. Do you have like a question, Olua Shegun? You could go ahead and drop the question. I see you raising your hands, or are you waving? Toby, are you following? All right, guys. I really want to know if you're following. I think Oluwasegun is following quite well. Okay, so Oluwasegun, it seems you're the active one here right now. Uh, okay, good to go. Lawrence says good to go. Okay. Okay, all right. Thank you. And so let's get back to it. So we are trying to see if there's any error in our code, then we would obviously catch it and give obviously this the error in this case is going to be on the server side. So we'll be returning a 500 error here. Remember, we used a 400 error in this case because it is a post request, because and that simply means that the value we are going to be checking is coming from the client end. But in this situation, when the get request has successfully come, there's nothing we are checking there. It has successfully arrived. So we are going to perform a simple business logic here, and if there's any error within there, then obviously it's not from whatever request we received, it's from our response. So in this case, what we'll be returning back to the front end is a 500 error because it is a server side error at this point in time. So I would want us to keep that in mind. When your error is coming from your business logic, then you are reporting a server side error, which is from the 500 series. While if you are checking the value that is coming from the client's end, then it has to be from within the 400 series, which is basically what is going in here: a push request and a get request. Let's move on and see what is happening here within our major logic here. Now, remember what we are trying to achieve in this situation is what is known as pagination. Let's run through it. So first of all, we are trying to retrieve products from the database, which is what our main goal is here. That will mean some of the actions we are carrying here is actions that have to do with our Mongo Monoose database. Our MongoDB database. All right. So we are going to use the find keyword. All right, Lawrence said you're just coming here. So first of all, we are talking about pagination, and in this pagination, we are working with a mock-up product API. Now, product API in this case just basically means you're working on a platform like an e-commerce platform or whatever kind of platform that basically works with products, and you want to be able to do your normal CRUD operations on it. But in this case, you might want to do something called pagination. Now, pagination basically just means uh, bringing out data in batches. You know, you are batching out data. So if you have 100 set of values in your database, you want to bring them out in batch of tens, and you are printing them out in pages. Each of these batch of tens are understood to be pages in this case. That's why it's called pagination. It's a way of dividing your data set into pages so that it is easier for the consumers of your API endpoint to make use of it. I hope you are getting you are up to speed with what we are doing so far, Lawrence. Now, you guys should not worry. This demo code will be made available on GitHub, and probably you could pull it at your hand and experiment with it, and do a lot of stuff just to understand and get a better feel of what pagination is all about. All right. Moving forward from there. We were talking about the basic business logic that is going on here, and in this case is the pagination attempts that we are working on. We are trying it, obviously. We are using the find method to filter the products based on the filters object. So remember I told you that the filter here can carry a number of strings. It could be the name of the product. It could be multiple names placed together, a couple of strings placed together to define what we are searching for, you know. And when we piece that together, we are first of all going to search if such a thing is available. So that's the first set of actions that is being performed on the database. Now, the next thing that is going on is we are chaining a sort function to our find function. So when we have found the set of things that meet our filter requirements, if it is just electronics we are looking for in this case, can you guys still hear me? So Oluwasegun is saying, how are these strings delimited? So the strings could be characterized by white spaces. So basically, when the strings are placed in, the filter function is able to handle it as an array of strings that are being ordered into the database. So it is going to be searched as like an array of strings placed together. I don't know if that answers you better. And by delimited, I'm pretty sure you are saying when the person is searching maybe from the front end, is he going to delimit it by commas or something like that? No, you are not supposed to be to limit them at the front end. If I want to search for a sentence, you're supposed to find a way of handling that. So even though we've not done too much to handle that yet, because this is a demo, uh, basically we are just going to be able to handle handle it by accepting it directly, because for now we are assuming that it's just going to be single strings, like single words that are being placed in it. But the reason why this is placed here is so that it can handle a variable number of data, and it's going to handle it like some sort of array or strings. You understand? Okay, so I hope that answers you for now, Oluwasegun. Moving forward from that, so we are going to be able to sort it now. Remember, we placed a sort by and sort order here. So we are making use of that in this place here. So the sort function, basically what it's going to do is it's basically going to arrange uh it's going to arrange it in either ascending or descending format. So we are either counting from the first item to the last item, or from the last item to the first item. So it depends on what the person using the filter at the front end places. He might choose to search in ascending or in descending order. Now this particular sort function, that is its job. It tries to sort the products based on the sort by and the sort order parameters, which is going to be attached to your it's basically attached to your request query. And if it is not attached, we have like defaults that we've placed here. Now the next thing is we are going to delimit. Now the skip function helps us do that. By delimit, I mean we are going to limit the amount of data that is going to be displayed per time. Now, the skip method is to skip the appropriate number of products for pagination. So the moment it reaches the limited value of data that we've asked it for, it is supposed to, skip the rest. That means it's going to cut off the entry of those things, so that we could make use of the first set of values that we've gotten. And then we are going to, after it skips, then we can pass the limit int to it. And this limit int is basically the number of values that we have limited. So first of all, it skips with the number of values that we've given it per time. Then we're able to limit it or narrow it down to the number of values that we've defined. Now, if all of this is successful, by the time it passes each of these uh, functions, there is no error in any of the values that have been passed to it, then it successfully sends the products to the front end. So it's going to go with a 200 value, in our header, and then it's going to send the list of values to the user for the user to be able to, render it and view on his screen. But obviously, if that doesn't work, if there's any error in this, it's going to send the 500 status code and the error message. So that's what is here. And we've been discussing on from the router file, and we are not we are our router file basically contains our controller. It wasn't separated just because this is a demo. Moving forward from that, we have our app. Our app basically, houses the defaults of everything that we'll be using within the Express, and our endpoints. So our endpoint in this case is slash products, and we are making use of the routes within the router. We understand that we need to import the Express, we need to import the Mongoose, we need to import the routes, and do the necessary connections to the Mongoose, and then export. Now, in this case, I separated uh, our server um, our server code from the app, just so that we use that specifically for starting up the server. Now let's go ahead and run this. So nvm use, just to be sure we're using the latest node. Then we have nodemon installed, so I am going to run that. All right, so our server is up and running, and it is listening on port 300. So I'm pretty sure we all understand how to use Postman by now. We must have tested or made use of Postman during our CRUD operations. Basically, Postman is a tool that is used in testing APIs and ensuring that all your endpoints are working the way they ought to. All right, let's see. I have Postman open here, and let me start a basic requests. We're going to start with the post just to update some data into our endpoint. So remember, our endpoint here is supposed to be forward slash products, and we are running on port 300 on our local host. So I will go ahead and say local host at port 3000 with our endpoint. So the reason why we need to go with our post request first of all is because we need to be able to update value into our database or into our collections before we will be able to make a request from it. I'm not sure I have to. Well, let me see if I can get some demo data from here. Uh, okay. Okay, so I think we have some demo data here. I will copy this and let's make our request. So first of all, we need to go to the header and ensure that it knows that our content type is JSON. So we are mimicking a JSON request from our front end, and then we'll go ahead to the body. And this time around, we are going to be using the raw because the data that we are working with is JSON. We ensure that the data type here is set to JSON. That being said, I would paste the data that we are working with. And remember, when you are testing this, ensure that your MongoDB is running, which was the first thing I did before we went fully into the session. So this is the demo data we are working with. Remember from our model, let's see. Our schema says that we need to work with a name, a category, a price, and whether it's in stock or not, which is Boolean. All right. So we would ensure that we meet every of those requirements here. Yeah. So name, description, price, and in stock. Let's say in stock should be true. We say true, and we do not have a subcategory in this, right? So we would take this out. So we basically just have a name, a description, a price, and whether it's in stock or not, and that will be true or false. Let me see, do I have that correct? In stock. All right. So this means we will now make, and remember your request needs to be sent to posts. And our endpoint is product. So I am sending the requests. Oh, and we have an error. So what's the error? It says validation error, category is required. Oh, my bad. Let's see. Okay, you could choose not to work with that. Okay, category. All right, let's take that a second time. Okay, and I think that was successful. You could see here that our request returned successful. It gave us a status code of 200. So we've successfully created our request. our products in the database, just as a way of confirming whether this product is actually in the database. So we'll check a get request. We don't need this, so we'll say none, and we'll remove the content type, and we are just going to send this get request. Okay, yes. So you could see that we have about two products right now. I had done one earlier on, and this is the second one. Okay, so that being done, let's see if we could also confirm our endpoints for the pagination. Now, we do not have too many products in our database, so we are just going to randomly check by placing basic data in it. Let's see. Let me see if I can get a request for that. So we could work with these parameters. I hope you can still hear me, guys. If you could still hear me clearly, let me hear. Let me see your message in the chat, please. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? So, guys, if you could hear me, drop the message in the chat so that I will be sure that you're following. Okay, clearly. All right, that's great. So we've just successfully done a post, and we've updated some data into the database. Now let's see if we could do a paginated get. Uh, all right. So we are going to place in the key and the values into our get request, just to know to let the browser know, like, these are the set of values that we are trying to meet up with. Now, just as a way of reminding us, I am going to open the route file that contains all of those various parameters that we set in place. So these are the parameters that were set in place here. So first of all, we have our page, then we have our limits, we have the sort by, we have alter, we have the order, and then we have the filter. So we will try and add those as our key and value within our request header. So let's start by saying our page, and the value is 1. We are just going to work with one page. We are having some sort of error. Oh, sorry. There is an error here. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to be working with is our limit, which is 10. So we are going to say limit, but in this case, I would say our limit should just be 1 because we do not have too many values. Uh, let's 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 work with this first. All right, limit equals 1. The next thing we're going to add is the sort by, and we're going to add a string of name. So let's go ahead and place the order. So So remember not to add extra white spaces in front of when you are testing these things, because it's going to return with an error. Uh, our order is in ascending order, and then finally we do not have too many products, so we could just ignore the filter, and let's just say for fun we assume that there were 10 values in it, and by the time we place this request, we'll find out that it returns okay, and it's going to try its best to order it based on what we've placed in. Now I'll make this code available to you so that you could go ahead and load up more data into it, and try the pagination with multiple names, and you could also try adding filters. Just say you have like a diversity in different types of string types, in different types of filter types, and you could use that in making your postman request, and it's going to bring back the values that you requested for in the order that you asked for it. So that's like a basic way of making use of pagination. Now, by default, this is only going to be attached to a specific endpoint. You will not build an API that is specifically going to only handle paginations. It is obviously going to be integrated into your entire API. It's just that you would have like a controller that handles just the pagination aspect of things. So this is just like a snippet of it, and you could add this into your main API code. You could go ahead and ask some questions if you have. If not, we could call it an evening. Are there any questions for now? Lawrence, Timileyi, and Toby, do you guys have any questions? So just in case you need access to this, I would give you. I will drop. I will drop the GitHub repo link in the chat right now so that you could have access to it and pull it into your system and work with it. Give me a moment. Let me get that link right now.
Hello, Bob. Can you hear me?
Oh, sure. I could hear you, Amaka.
All right. I think someone just dropped the question in the chat now.
Oh, okay. So he said, what if I want to load more of the product? So basically, all you just need to do at that point is increase your limit. So let's say your limit was at 10. I will share my screen again shortly just to explain what that is. All you just need to do is basically increase your limit. I'm trying to get the GitHub link for you guys so that you will be able to access the code and probably practice with it this night. Connect. Give me a moment. So I'm having a bit of issues connecting from this platform here. So I will drop it with Amaka to drop. Uh, I will drop it with Amaka so that she could drop it in the chat for you guys. Amaka, I'm dropping the link to so you could drop it in the chat, the GitHub repo link.
All right. No problem.
All right, that's it there. So let me go back to the questions and probably share my screen one last time. All right, so So Lawrence asked, "What if I want to load more of the products?" And I said, "All you just need to do is you just need to be able to handle your limits on your requests. You could change your limit from 10 to 20, from 20 to 30, depending on the amount of products you have in your database and how many you want to show per time. So basically, what handles that is the limits on your this thing on the pagination that you want to do. You said the request header is for tokens and content types, etc. Yes, yes, yes. If I'm getting what you're asking for, right? Yeah. So, are there any more questions? So basically, when making a get request, your request is passed via the header. So yeah. All right. If there are no more questions, Amaka, I guess we are good for the evening. Please help me drop the repo link so that they could clone and make use of this code and practice with it. And obviously, don't hesitate to ask questions in the on the community group chat so that we could answer them. And if just in case you run into any bit of issues. All right, thank you, Amaka. I just saw that now.
All
All right,
right.
guys.
Thank you too much.
If there are no more questions, we could call it an evening, and you all have a lovely night.
So I don't think there are any more questions. And the WhatsApp group as well. So with that being said, I think the announcement I have is we currently have a design challenge coming up. So if you have friends who are designers, go ahead to inform them they should join the server to participate in that challenge. That challenge will be happening on the 7th of June, which happens to be on Friday of this month. Sorry, Friday of this week, rather. Apologies. And see you there. More details are on the server as well. Bye, guys.